Hello again everybody and welcome back to the workshop. Now, some considerable time ago I repaired the door beams for my Lotus Excel project. Repaired all the fairly extensive rust that there was. But the secondary problem, is very common to these cars, is the hinge pins. So these are the original hinge pins and a couple of bushes. These have suffered from a lack of lubrication over the years. There's no factory provision made for lubricating. This one, which is actually ironically the worst one, has got a groove in it and a hole drilled and a hole made on the end of the pin for a grease fitting. I'm not sure they were ever used, and some really quite horrible grooves cut in to help spread the lubricant. But you know, these to be honest were fine for the expected lifespan of a vehicle, which is about 10 years. But once particularly a vehicle like a Lotus becomes an occasional use vehicle, spends a lot of its time standing, the bushes wear and the doors drop, which isn't a problem on my Esprit. On this car, which had stood since 2006, as I recall, they seized up, and it's not uncommon to see the entire pin actually rotating in the mounting plates, which ultimately leads to the mounting plates getting elongated holes and all sorts of problems. So what I've decided to do is, rather than make or buy new hinge pins and bushings, is if I'm going to do any machining, it's going to upgrade to a maintenance-free system. So here are the door beams with the tubes for the bearings, and the standard bearing is, just remind myself, don't know if it'll focus, but that's an 11 DU14. The outside diameter of which is 25/32 of an inch, which is 19.843 millimeters. So what I'm going to do is take these tubes out to 20 millimeters and then use these Ilgidur bearings, which I got from igerscott.co.uk, who no sponsorship deals or anything, but I've dealt with them a few times. They are excellent on technical advice. You phone up the sales line, say you're after some help, and they'll generally get one of their technical people to phone you back and talk about the solution, because they have a number of different plastics with different properties and ratings and applications. So this is the one they suggested. These are a lot longer than the originals. I will be combining them with a stainless steel pin. The ideal partnership bearing material that they recommend is a hard anodized aluminium, but they don't stock the shaft in a suitable size to match with these bearings. They stock it in smaller sizes. But they did tell me that these are the kind of bearings that Lotus are currently using for their door hinges. So all I've got to do is open up the tubes in the door beams to 20 millimeters to take the bush, and to that end I bought myself a 20 millimeter machine reamer, and to get things centered up I've got a little spigot machined for the 25-30 seconds and a sort of transition fit. It takes a bit of wiggling to get it on, and I need absolutely every millimeter or inch of Z-axis clearance in order to be able to get this reamer into the other end of the cross tube, I've got to have the knee all the way down. So that's why I'm using a couple of V-blocks, a toolmaker's clamp and some standard mill clamps to get this mounted up. Use the coaxial indicator to centre up on it, and I'm now going to drop the knee all the way down, raise the quill all the way up, and then I can get the door beam mounted up, and we'll have a go at reaming this out. Okay, hopefully you can see what's going on. I've got the quill DRO zeroed. This is a 38mm long bush, so I'm going to go down 40mm. The tube is a little bit distorted from the welding process, original and my repairs. So to a certain extent I'm correcting the bend with the reamer. When I had this on the other way up, this misaligned by a lot, the reamer wouldn't enter. This way round it does enter. So hopefully once I've done this side, I can do the other side. Because I'm opening the hole out, I'm going to have to change the bottom spigot for location. So I'm going to do the same operation on both door beams. Then change the setup and do the second op. Okay, that went quite well, I think. I'll now swap to the other beam and repeat the process. This seems a little tight. I'll see if I can find a reamer to just make enough clearance for it to slip on. Okay, that took me a little more time than I thought. I had to relieve an out of round in that bottom part of the tube that was not allowing it to go on the spigot. So now we should be able to do this side. A little bit further down because the diameter for the old bush didn't go quite as deep. But there we have one reamed outer portion of the tube. It's very hard to manipulate the whole beam whilst looking at the camera viewfinder. Anyway, I'll now change this bottom spigot for the larger size, get everything set up, and it will just be a rinse and repeat. Well, here's the final result. I've got the plastic bushings fitted, and this is a piece of 18mm stainless steel, which was a recommended compatible bearing material. It will of course not corrode, and with plastic bushings it's maintenance free, and this rotates nicely in there. Nice snug fit. I'm quickly machined up a guide to install the bushes, and they just tapped in very nicely with the dead blow. So what I will be doing next is obviously machining this pin. The original had sitting on the bed of the lathe. The original had male threads on the end and used washers to adjust the hinge plates and so on the beam alignment. I'm not sure if I'll be copying that or I'll be going to an internal thread and a different arrangement for adjusting, but that'll be a later job when the car starts going back together. But this is at least one of the many jobs for the Excel ticked off.